Cardinal Kin, a Batfam podfic written by the Royal Librarian and read by Heo Stories. Chapter 5 Offered and Informed. The time between Damian's conversation with Fox at the gala to their actually scheduled appointment seems to drag on indefinitely. He's at the end of his semester, meaning all his free time has been dedicated to revising for exams and completing the details on his final projects. At this point, he just has a few more tests to take and then sit through the final useless days of the semester before he can finally be free of school for a while. Ninth grade, overall, wasn't too terrible, much improved from the last year anyway. With a bit more freedom to choose his classes, he immediately signed up for art. Despite his prior experience, though, the school requires everyone to start in the same introductory course, Art 1. Many students only take the class to fulfill a graduation requirement, so his class was filled with kids from different grades, most of whom had very little real interest in the actual subject. At first, Damian steadfastly kept to himself, completing his assignments without a word to the people around him. Eventually, though, he made friends with the girl who sat next to him, Lena. She's a better artist than most of the class, though Damien is sure with more practice she could be truly fantastic. Next year, they'll be taking art 2 together. Their teacher has assured them that the class will be more rigorous and with more passionate students. Damien thinks he might actually miss his friend in the interim of the summer, but is eager to be productive, especially with whatever Fox has for him. Damien is becoming more and more aware that he only has 3 years left until he graduates high school, and he feels unequipped. Damien would usually spend his summer drawing, painting, and volunteering at animal shelters, while also increasing his training and duties as Robin. This summer, however, he intends to increase his understanding of Wayne Enterprises and companies like it as much as possible. He refuses to be underprepared, and if that means sacrificing most of summer, so be it. He's hopeful about this option from Fox, but whether or not it works out, Damien intends to use his time to the fullest. Alfred picks Damien and Duke up from school and scuttles them back to the manor. Damien is glad he seems to be in good spirits. The end of his semester marks the end of his brother's junior year, meaning they'll only get one more year together in school. Damien didn't expect to enjoy going to school with Duke as much as he has. It's nice to have someone who gets it, someone about his age who understands the strain of balancing school and teenage vigilantism. Obviously, the others also live that life at one point, but with Duke, it's nice to know they're going through it together. Damien would never tell him that, obviously, but he thinks on some level Duke knows. Today then, Duke smirks at him from the other side of the car. My meeting with Mr. Fox is scheduled for this afternoon, yes? Damien agrees as neutral as he can, careful not to give away his excitement or his trepidation. Bruce still won't tell you what it is. Father insists that Mr. Fox will explain it best. Damien responds, gaze fixed outside the window. I get the impression he isn't very pleased with the idea, but he will allow me to decide for myself. Duke hums. Is that why you're anxious? I'm not. Duke just gives him a look, and Damien sighs. Among other things, he admits, I simply want to do well. Duke smiles kindly. Take it easy on yourself, little D. You still got a few more years of school. You don't have to do everything figured out right now. On the contrary, Damien corrects, I know exactly where my goals are. The only question is what steps I need to take to achieve them. Alfred smiles from the driver's seat. Well, you'd certainly be the first of this family in that regard. You know, your father wanted to be a doctor when he first graduated. I'm aware, but that will not be true in my case. My path is set. Alfred doesn't respond for a moment, but eventually nods once. As you say, sir. Once they get home, Damian goes up to his room and sets up his laptop for the meeting with Fox. He's ready and set at his desk a good 5 minutes before their agreed upon time. Nervous excitement makes him a bit restless. Damian huffs impatiently and resigns himself to Zoom waiting room. Soon enough, Fox's face fills his screen. Mr. Wayne, Lucius says with a warm smile. How have you been? Damian responds to the pleasantries as swiftly and curtly as possible, trying to get the pleasantries over with as soon as possible. Lucius' smile shifts into something like a smirk, clearly picking up on Damian's impatience. All right, he chuckles. I won't keep you in suspense. I've asked around and found a position for you in Drake Industries for the summer. An internship, if sorts, if you want it. Damian leans forward, intrigued. Internship? Paid internship, Fox clarifies. Not that you need it, but all Wayne Enterprises sponsored internships are paid. Damien frowns. I thought you said this position was for Drake Industries. It is. Wayne Enterprises would essentially be loaning you out to Drake Industries. We provide the employment and pay while the I offers the training and real world experience to prepare future WE hires. Damien narrows his eyes. I've never heard of this program. We're actually in the middle of developing it, what Fox admits. You'd be our first trial run to see how it goes. Damien takes a moment to consider that. Since following Mr. Fox's recommendation to review DI's recent projects, he's been impressed. Their partnership with Wayne Enterprises has proven extremely beneficial to Gotham, focusing on medical advancement, accessibility, and cost differential. A rare combination of innovations and ethical execution. Very well, Damon agrees. What exactly would I be doing in this internship? Well, Lucius begins with a smile that Damien doesn't entirely trust. You'd be filling in from Timothy Drake's executive assistant. Damien blinks. His current assistant is taking the summer off. Fox explains smoothly. You'd essentially be managing Mr. Drake's meetings, calls, and schedule, as well as assisting him with anything he may need your help with. Damien's face screws in displeasure. A secretary? It may feel that way at first, Fox allows, but an executive assistant is an important job. They're vital to a CEO's work. You may be handling sensitive information or conducting research if Mr. Drake asks it for you. Your task will depend on how much confidence Mr. Drake has in you. You'll have to earn his trust. This isn't what I wanted, Damien protests, his tone sharpening. You said this would be an opportunity to learn from Drake. And it is, Lucius insists. You may not be operating as a CEO, but you will be in the room. You'll get to see the day in and day out responsibilities and demands of the job. You'll see what he sees, hear how he makes decisions, and when the moment's right, ask questions. You'll gain insights, not just into the company, but into Timothy himself. Damien leans back, considering it. A year or two ago, he probably would have outright refused such a position. His mother taught him that he was above such menial tasks, that his rightful place was above others, never under them. But his father's teachings have truly cemented. He knows now that all people are deserving of respect, that the positions he once thought inferior and are actually paramount to the running of society. He sees Mr. Fox's point. Such a position would put him within close proximity of Drake, a perfect place to watch it and learn. Lucius allows Damian a few minutes to think, then interjects. For the sake of full transparency, you should know that I was aware of the opening because it is usually filled by my daughter, Tamara. Damian glances up, surprised. He knows, of course, that Mr. Fox has children, but he's never known more than that. She'll be gone for 2 months, almost exactly the length of your summer break. She'll get you started and give you a few days of training before she leaves. I see. Damien responds blandly, still weighing the pros and cons in his head. Fox gives him another moment before leaning closer to the camera, somehow becoming less formal and more personable. I don't want you to feel like this is something you have to do, Damien. I've talked to your father about it and we agree it's your choice. If you decide you don't want the job, Tam has other candidates who could fill the position. Even if you start and realize you don't like it, that's okay too. Damien bristles slightly. He's not a child, he doesn't need to be coddled. Though it is a big step forward. Damien would be lying if he wasn't a bit nervous at the prospect. What if he's fundamentally bad at it? What if Drake doesn't like him and fires him outright? What if he makes a mistake and throws off the entire company? Well, he recognizes that's a bit dramatic, but still, I'd be checking in with you regularly. Fox adds gently. You won't be alone. Meaning he'll have a support system. Lucius Fox himself. Clarity suddenly strikes Damien. Why is he even hesitating? He has the CEO of one of the most prominent and important companies in the world in his corner. He has the opportunity to gain experience and knowledge from a young yet well respected figure, a potential business partner and ally. He'd be a moron to turn this down. It may be pretty far out of his comfort zone, but Damien has never shied away from hard things. He's been worried about not learning fast enough. What better way to figure things out than by throwing himself into a company so similar to Wayne Enterprises on purpose, run by a CEO of a similar situation to Damien? It's a perfect situation. I can give you some time to think about it. Yes, Damien states firmly. Yes, I'll do it. Mr. Fox grins. I'm glad, he says. I'll send you and your father the details and your contract. Your training will start the first Monday after your semester finishes. Damien nods, feeling more excited now than nervous. Very well. Give this a real chance, Damien, Fox advises before he goes. I think you'll find you and Timothy have more in common than you think. The screen goes dark. The meeting ended. Damien just sits and stares for a few seconds, processing. This is good, he finally decides. This is great. Damien stands, suddenly unable to hold still at all. He still has almost 7 hours until he needs to get ready for patrol, but maybe he can convince Duke to spare with him before he leaves for the afternoon shifts. Tim leans his head heavily to his shoulder, trying in vain to stretch out the tension building between his shoulder blades. That's what he gets for pulling a 15-hour workday in the office. With Tam getting ready to go on her vacation, the two of them have been putting in the work to get most of the major decisions and deadlines for the quarter out of the way. It's not that Tim couldn't do it without Tam, but he feels a lot better having her go over things with a fine-tooth comb. Even so, having Tam gone will be like losing a limb. For as smart as Timothy knows he is, it's difficult at times for him to keep track of everything by himself. Tam fills that gap. He already knows he will miss her fiercely, both as his assistant and his friend. She's more than earned a break, though. Tim's life is, and has always been, dedicated to work. He doesn't have the same urge everyone else seems to have to take quality break now and then. It never even crosses his mind. Tam has been keeping pace with Tim for years now, and he never even realized how exhausted that must be until Tam requested some time off. As soon as she did, Tim felt like a complete asshole. Of course, Tam has the legal PTO days that Drake Industries offered all its employees, but she's never taken them. She said she felt too much responsibility towards the company and towards Tim himself to just up and leave. When Tam did finally come to him, he made sure she would have everything she wanted and more, a bonus of sorts for all her dedicated hard work. He also made it clear that from now on, Tam is required to take her leave. Tim is more than capable of handling things himself, even if he has grown accustomed to her meticulous precision. Tim glances up from his stretching at the sound of his office door opening. Just a few more things for you to sign tonight, Tam says as she approaches his desk, laying the mentioned documents on his right side. Thank you. Tim picks the pile up, briefly flipping through the pages. You have two charity submissions to approve, one vendor contract and the contracts for my replacements. Tam narrates. Tim nods, skimming each document before signing on the dotted line. This is the last thing for the day, then you'll go home, Tam informs him. Tim smirks. Says Hugh, maybe I have something else I want to work on. You don't, she says matter of factly, and even if you did, it's been 15 hours, that's why I draw the line. Tim shakes his head fondly, still looking down towards the documents he's reviewing. If only she knew. What am I gonna do without you? He mumbles. Suffer. Tim huffs, and Tam goes back to her desk to pack up for the day. Tim finishes with the vendor contract, signing it and moving on to the last indenture, the contract of employment for his new assistant intern. Tim gave Tam full authority to pick her replacement, trusting her enough to find someone competent. He was pleasantly surprised when she came back to him with the idea she and her father put together, a Wayne Enterprises and Drake Industries internship program. If it goes well, Tam's substitute will be the first of many such interns, and perhaps eventually they will reverse the roles and send their own employees to WE to train. All in all, it's a pretty good deal, and Tim is actually excited to meet the first trainee, his assistant for the next 2 months. The program will be designed to specifically encourage promising young people to apply, both teenagers and college students. Tim much rather work with a young person ready and eager to learn than someone who thinks they know better than him just because they happen to be older. Another reason why Tam is the perfect executive assistant. Tam and Lucius have already gotten the bones of the program on the way. All that's left is to see how the experiment goes. Tim skims over the contract, seeing everything is in order. He notices WE's legal team added an NDA clause, basically meaning neither Tim nor his assistant will be able to slander the other in the press or to competing businesses. A bit overkill perhaps, but it's not like Tim minds, especially since it looks like this kid is under 18. The contract is already filled in and signed by the other parties: Fox, the intern himself, and their parent, an acknowledgement of their child's responsibilities. His eyes drift to the bottom of the page, and he places his pen down ready to sign. His brain suddenly clicks back into gear after going on fumes for so long, his mind replaying back to him what he just saw. Wait. He looks back over to the printed names and signatures next to them. And there, unmistakably, inexplicably, is Bruce Wayne's signature next to his son's. Damian. Damian Wayne. Tim whips his head up towards the still open door so fast he's already saw next seizes. Damn! He calls, shaking off the tension as best he can. Tam rushes back in, hearing the odd urgency in his voice. What is it? Tim holds up the contract. Damian Wayne? Yes, Tam draws. Tim wouldn't be surprised if his eyes are literally bulging out of his skull. You just forgot to mention that to me. I did mention it, she responds calmly. Tim balks. You absolutely did not. Tim gets a look on her face. Tim knows she's activating her self restraint. I told you about the program last week, she recounts with the patience of a saint. After you approved of the ID, WE drafted the stipulations. Yesterday morning, I told you Wayne had agreed to the arrangement and that his son would be our first hire. Tim scours his mind, searching for any memory of that conversation. Yesterday was coming off an all-nighter case session and hadn't had his morning coffee before he got into the office. He would have been pretty useless at that point, but surely he would have picked up on this. Although Tim has worked hard to train his mind to compartmentalize stray thoughts about his former family to avoid distraction, in his adult state, he wouldn't be shocked if he did gain so again subconsciously. It's not a good idea, Tim states with a shake of his head. Why? You liked the idea before? Why does Damian Wayne change anything? It literally changes everything. Tim feels like a bit like he's going crazy. He wants to all out laugh, but without context, he's pretty sure he'd look like a literal maniac. What's wrong with Damien? Dan frowns. You met him, didn't you? Well, my father says he's a hard-working kid. Nothing is wrong with him. And what's the problem? Tim can't answer that. He can't tell that it's his little brother. A brother and family he misses with such fierceness in his heart, he can't take it sometimes. He can't tell her that he literally practices putting in the thoughts of him out of his mind to not suffer the pain and shame of his failures. Can't tell her that this might very well destroy him and the life he tried so hard to build for everyone. It's an all good idea, he repeats, his anxiety building. Why? It just isn't, he insists. That's not a reason. Tamara! Tim takes a half step back, completely taken aback. Tim has never done that, never snapped at her like that. I'm sorry, he almost instantly says, trying to rein in his panic. I'm sorry, that wasn't. I didn't mean. Tim leans his head onto one of his hands, pinching the bridge of his nose between his fingers. Tim slowly steps closer, stopping just in front of Tim's desk. I don't know what's going on with you, Tim, but you need to get over it, she says softly but firmly. We're too far into the process for you to pull out now after everyone has already agreed, especially just because of who it is. It would be bad. But Tim cuts himself off so as to not allow his voice to break, so as to not allow himself to fall apart. Tim shakes her head. No, but if the press finds out you shut this whole thing down just because you didn't want to work with Damian Wayne specifically, you understand how that would look, don't you? Tim's brain is still firing slower than usual, so it takes a few seconds to comprehend what she's implying. When she does, Tim physically recoils. That's not. No, that I would never. I know that, obviously. Tam smirks, then sobers again. But that's how it will look. And at the very least, I don't think you want to piss the Waynes off like that. She has no idea how right she is about that. If Bruce or any of his children thought for a second Timothy Drake denied Damien a job because of discrimination, they'd unleash swift, ruthless revenge on both him and his company. Tim would expect nothing less. He really doesn't want to deal with that on top of all the other repercussions. You're right, Tim searches his mind, trying with all his might to come up with some sort of reasoning for such an emotional, out of character response. I don't have the greatest rapport with the Waynes, he decides. In fact, I'm pretty sure most of them despise me. I have no idea why Damien would want to work with me in the first place. Tam gazes at him critically, like she knows he's holding back, but evidently she decides to let it slide. My father said Damien looks at you like some sort of example. An example? Tim scoffs. I don't think I've ever been described as such by a Wayne before. That, at least, is more than true in both timelines. Regardless of the reasoning it's happening, Tim, you need to accept that. Tim sighs. Yeah, okay. He picks up his pen again, only hesitating for another second before signing the contract. Tam nods, takes the documents from him, and leaves without another word, closing the door on her way out. Tim practically collapses in on himself. 2 months. He'll be working with Damian for 2 months. If he can manage to pull this off without literally having a mental breakdown, it'll be the miracle of all miracles. He's a goddamn time traveler. No, it will be fine. It will all be fine. He just has to spend day in and day out with his not brother who's completely forgotten all about him and will likely despise him, if he doesn't already, for the whole summer. It's just another shitty situation. Tim deals with shitty situations for a living. It's practically the story of his life at that point. He'll get over it. He always does. Once Tim has his breathing under control again, he heads home, careful, not even looking towards Rain Manor as he drives past. For as tired as he is, he knows he won't be able to sleep until he literally drops with the anxiety thrumming through his veins. It's a Friday, so he can afford to let himself sleep for 12 hours once he eventually does. Tim grabs a protein bar and some water and heads to the library. He doesn't have any current cases to work on, unfortunately, so he resigns himself to doing some research while he listens in on the Batfams. The sound is so familiar it acts a bit like white noise as he works and lets himself keep up with their current activities. It's a good thing he does, because a few hours later, Blue Jay and Robin have the unfortunate pleasure of facing off against the Riddler. In the original timeline, the Riddler has always been considered Red Robin's rogue. Edwin Nigma genuinely enjoys his puzzles and mind games as long as someone who can keep up with him. But with Cardinal so rarely on the streets and no one else able to match his intellect, Riddler is growing increasingly frustrated. That isn't to say the other bats are inept. They've been able to keep up with him for years, but the Riddler naturally ups his game every time someone beats him. At this point, it's a struggle for any of them to keep up, even Batman at times. Tim wonders what it says about him mentally that he so easily follows through the thought process of a supervillain. Robin and Blue Jay manage to hold their own for a while, but then Riddler throws his final test at him. The ability to answer will decide the fate of the hostages. I leave no home, yet I claim a rest in the arms of strangers, whom I know best. A master of time, my call you'll know, yet where I belong, few can show. Tim leans back in his chair and lets out a manic, bitter laugh he held in before at the office. The only remnants still left in his fractured mind of JJ. Jason and Damian only have 30 seconds to solve the riddle, and they are clearly struggling. Tim quickly pulls up the chat box between Cardinal and Oracle, knowing she's watching the encounter too and doing her best to assist them. With a bitter shake of his head, Tim types out the answer and sends it her way. Oracle has long since stopped questioning how and why Cardinal knows so much, how he keeps up with them so effortlessly. They've had enough trust between them to know the other is on their side. So when Barbara gets his message, she doesn't hesitate to pass it on. Cuckoo, she tells Blue Jay and Robin over the comms instantly. The answer is a cuckoo bird. Alright, end of chapter 5, I think. Uh, yeah. I hope you enjoyed. Uh, Not the same recording session anymore, but still the same day. I recorded last part of chapter 3, the entirety of chapter 4, and now chapter 5. Um, I'm on a roll today. I hope you enjoyed it. subscribe if you want to make sure you uh, catch the next chapter. Um, I keep saying this so much recently is because, well, I'm getting a good amount of watch time hours. Uh, like on that front, I'm halfway to being monetized, but that isn't the case. With the subscriber amount, you need a bit more than 150, or if the rate at which I'm currently grown keeps on, will be like 220, but that isn't enough to get monetized. So please subscribe; it would genuinely help. Thank you.